Hi, my name's Phil and welcome to this channel, The Income School Student. Over the next couple of days I'm going to be climbing a mountain in Taiwan, and that got me to thinking about getting traffic. Often getting traffic to a brand new website is a lot like climbing a mountain, but the analogy I'm thinking of is more of Muhammad. Now, if the traffic won't come to you, then you need to go to the traffic. So I'm going to be talking about that over the next couple of days, so stick around to find out more. So one of the ways that the niche websites that we build at Income School are a lot different from traditional blogging is that with traditional blogging, you just kind of say what you think, give tips, and you're sharing, the best idea you've had recently. That's not what we do with our websites. What we're actually doing is going to Google and finding the queries that people are searching for, and that's what we write our posts about. The other thing is that when you're looking at those queries, you've got to consider, not only the competition, but also how likely is it that someone's going to search that. Now, this is just using common sense. You've got to think about your niche, and you've got to think about those kind of beginner questions to intermediate questions that people might ask. Once you get to the very advanced and very niche questions and queries, that's just not going to bring you in a lot of volume, as in search volume, so it's not really worth writing that post. This kind of comes with a bit of experience, but it's one of the major things that I've learned in the course, and it's totally changed the kind of traffic that I get to my websites at the moment. So I really recommend the course just for that. But if you don't want to pay for the course, then you can just learn this through trial and error. It just involves writing a lot of posts and then looking at the data in Google Analytics, and then after you do that, you'll be able to get a lot more traffic volume for the posts that you write. So we had a query something like, what are the best replacement pegs for a North Face X 2019 tent? Now that's pretty niche as a subject, but the thing is you've got to remember that you've got to get a lot of people that are buying that kind of tent, and those people then have to lose those pegs. So that could be quite a small group of people. It really depends on how popular the tent was. Another thing could be what's a light tent to take on a hiking trip. Now that's going to be searched a lot more than something more niche like replacement tent poles or pegs in this case. So the thing is about these queries is you've got to use your common sense. It's just looking at it and thinking, would I ask that as a beginner, or would I ask that as more of an advanced user? So people always think about finding the search volume by using keyword tools. Now, if you watched any of the Income School videos, you know that Jim and Ricky are kind of very anti keyword tools. They have their uses. They're very good at giving you inspiration for keywords, but you shouldn't really trust the volume because they're quite often not on sort of the exact numbers because of things like semantic search and other factors. So don't trust the volume too much because that could be misleading. But do use them maybe just for inspiration. But above all, just use your common sense. Okay, so it's stupid o'clock on day 2 of this mountain climb. Didn't get much sleep last night, but I've got another tip for you, and it's all about the snippet. So when you're writing your posts, you really got to think about the format to get that rank 0 or the snippet in the SERP. This can really help you because if your page ranks at position 10, if you still win the snippet by having a well optimized answer to the question, then you're able to get to position 0 and you're going to increase your click-through rate. So it's really important to research this, and this is one of the biggest things that we're taught in Project 24 by Rick and Jimmy, and it's really kind of changed how much traffic I get. And I've won quite a few snippets, and I'm only about 4 months in. So it's something really important to talk about. But let's have a look at that view. It's worth getting up for that. So another thing to think about apart from formatting your posts for the snippet is actually the heading. You want to have a heading that people want to click on, something intriguing. And it's one of the most important things, especially when you're not ranking very high in the SERP. Because if you've got a very clickable heading, then even if you're position 5 or 6, people are more likely to look down the page and see your article and click on it. You don't want anything too clickbaity because Google actually say you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't have anything misleading. So if you're saying something in your heading that you don't actually talk about or answer in your post, then don't do that. So as you're searching through, in your normal day-to-day and you see quite a a clickable heading, just put it in an Excel file, save it for later, and try and use it for a post in the future. If we imagine we're talking about the tent again, if you've got 10 posts with the same kind of title, the best tent for 2019, for example, which one are you going to click on? They're all pretty much the same. But if you see something like, this is the only tent I will ever buy and here's why, that's intriguing. I mean, you're going to want to click on that. So always think about how you can format your heading to make it more clickable than the other people that are ranking on the SERP for the same query. So another way to ensure that you get traffic and rank at the top of the SERP is to match the length of the post to the query. Now in Project 24 we talk a lot about these response posts, these staple posts and the pillar posts, and they have different lengths. But we're finding now that perhaps it's not all about how many words that you write, it's more about the content and the quality of the answer that you give. So make sure that if you've got a fairly basic query, that you answer it, but you also answer sort of the next couple of questions and do a little bit more research than you might do, or rather I should say than other people might do. So it's not always about just reaching that word count, it's about actually giving quality content. And if you do that, then you ensure that your answer is going to shoot to the top of the list and it's going to stay there, and no one's going to easily beat you from that position that you get after about 35 weeks. Another thing along the same sort of lines is, if you're researching for any particular query, don't just go and look at the other websites that are ranking for that. Don't just steal what they're saying or rewrite what they're saying, basically just scraping their information. Go and do your own research. So a really good thing to do is to have a look at Google Scholar. So instead of getting your data from the normal Google search, SERP, go to Google Scholar and see if there's any actual studies or anything to do with your question. If you can sort of cite those as a source, then you're going to be more believable, sort of more authoritative than perhaps the other people that are already ranking for that query. So yeah, don't just go and steal what everyone else is saying. Now I'm saying this from experience because recently I did what's called the Content Warrior Challenge, and it's not easy when you're trying to write 2 or 3 articles a day. Doing the research, it takes a long time, but it is really worth it. But if you're just saying the same thing as everyone else, people are just going to look at your article and say, well, I've just read that, it's not that useful. So really go the extra mile, and that's going to ensure that you're going to get better traffic and long-lasting traffic in the future. The thing about any post is that when you write it, you really have no idea whether or not you're going to get traffic. No matter how well you do your search analysis, no matter how much common sense you use in choosing the queries that match what you think will be big search volume. But the thing is, you just got to give it time. Okay, so it's another early morning on day 3, and today we're going to descend a mountain. So I'm wearing my wife's pirate hat here to keep me warm. But I just want to talk about some sort of realistic expectations I had of mountain climbing and how that applies to your website. So a lot of things turned out how I thought they would, but I had a lot of surprises, and that's the same for building organic traffic with your website. So you can't expect it to be the same as paid traffic. With paid traffic, you're just literally sending people to your website and then you're trying to convert them into sales. That's not quite the same with organic traffic. What you need to do first is to please Google so that they will rank your page, and then that's where the traffic comes from. Of course, this takes a lot of time. So make sure that you don't give up. Make sure that you wait those full 35 weeks, and after that, then you can make a decision whether or not to change your tactics or to give up. Okay. So I know that I've mentioned a few of these things before, but sometimes you just need to hear them again and again before they kind of click in your brain. So make sure you follow all the tips that I gave you today, and if you do follow that, then you too can realize your dreams. Well, that's a bit cheesy, but